Yo, so fake. Oh, what's up, everyone? All right, Monday grind. The stats I'm gonna collect, since we have a Tuesday game as well, already up in the sheet and post them in the chat. So if anyone wants 2020 stats updated to every game so far, there they are. Already posted on Patreon, of course. And yeah, how you doing? Just gonna talk about some players, work through the 2020 season together. And everything it is and it isn't. Did you know TJ Hawkinson's breaking out this year? I mean, having a good season, fine, but we usually define a breakout at tight end as getting into the top 5, and it's him. He's the breakout. I honestly didn't know that. I mean, I knew him and Fant had paid off from liking him in the offseason, but that's about it. But he's a tight end 3 overall position rank and tight end 5 points per game. I mean, that's a breakout no matter how you want to measure it. Fant's not, but Hawkinson actually is. I also didn't know that Hunter Henry was the 5th ranking tight end this season. Like, I like Henry too. I just hasn't been feeling good, and yet he is number 5 right now. So pretty cool. Anyway, what was I going to talk about today? I was going to share the screen for a start, Pete. Oh, it's just see me. Where am I? There we are. Stat sheet. Anyway, I was specifically looking at Dominator and Opportunity Share. Today, I was mostly. I know. I was looking at how crazy James Robinson's opportunity has been this season. Now, apparently I'm calculating it slightly different to Spaceman, who's the one who's tracking it for DLF, but it's still basically the same result of James Robinson. I mean, I have him at 82%. Spaceman had him over 90%. Either way, that's pretty much insane. And I was trying to show on Twitter earlier today how insane that is. Like, I mean, the closest nearest one is Derrick Henry, and we know how unchallenged he is in his backfield. But when I was talking about it with Zach and some other people on the podcast and other places as well, everyone keeps mentioning it's just because he's the only one there. But, like, how many people are there in Tennessee, or how many people are there in Tampa Bay, really? And Zach was comparing him to Lindsey. So I was looking back on it, and I remembered that Royce Freeman and Philip Lindsay basically split the opportunity share that season that Lindsay broke out. Royce Freeman, who was barely rosterable that year, and this year he has an 11% opportunity share, I think. So to put it in perspective, Royce Freeman, who you may have forgotten, is still playing in the NFL, is taking more opportunity away from both Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon than the rest of the backfield. And there are still 3 or 4 players on that backfield with James Robinson. Royce Freeman is taking more away from Lindsay and Gordon than all of those players are from James Robinson. Like, this isn't just because there's no one else. Like, even when there's no one else, or even when there's 2. I mean, look at Carolina. I mean, Mike Davis and Christian McCaffrey are the entire running back position when one or the other isn't available, right? But, Rodney Smith, who apparently is a player in Carolina, is getting more opportunity in that backfield than the entire rest of the Jacksonville backfield put together this season. And he hasn't, like, it's not Philip Lindsay. I'm sorry, this is not a Philip Lindsay season. He's not doing the same thing just because they were both undrafted free agents. And it's not just because there's no one else on the backfield. I mean, Jacksonville like him as well as at least this season. And I get those draft capitals are concerned, yada, yada, yada. But they like him as well as anyone ever liked Saquon Barkley. That speaks a lot to the player, not the lack of other people in the backfield. No. It's not just there's no one else there, because there are other players there. They just don't matter to an extraordinarily high degree. This is at least a higher percentage of James Robinson than people are really giving him credit for. It's not that you have to like him better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Jonathan Taylor, but I mean, he's definitely in that conversation. And I'm not so sure he's there. I looked it up, and he's like running back. What is he? He's running back 16 right now in Dynasty League football ranks, and that's. I get it, but he's being ranked behind guys who can never have this type of who will never have the season that James Robinson is now. And I know the running back position is low. That's the other thing me and Zach talked about, and it's true. Very few running backs through the first 11 weeks had over 200 points, but James Robinson did. He's having a top 5 season, and it looks pretty much like a regular top 5 running back season. Like, he's having a good running back season. It's just everyone else who sucks. That's not a reason to downgrade what he's doing this year either. I don't know. I definitely think there's going to be value left in James Robinson this offseason because people are already like, really? Yeah, really. Also, I was looking back at rookies, wide receivers specifically, from a target share article, thinking about doing an update on them. There were concerns I raised on the podcast and also in my article about efficiency on volume. Efficiency puts you in a higher hit rate category to get more volume the next season, for example, especially if you're lacking a bit of draft capital, or even if you have it. Donald Mooney is a guy who's, frankly, he's incredibly impressive in terms of dominator. What's he at right now? He's got like the 6th highest rookie dominator. He's got a 20.8% share of that team's receiving game. Like, he's 20% of it, which is incredibly impressive for a rookie 4th round pick. I've described him as what we wanted Anthony Miller to be. That's who Donald Mooney is. Now, the concern was that he's not being particularly efficient on it, which, also speaks to why the team sucks. But the team does suck, and so he's not in a great situation. But the stats I'm using really speak to the way how well he's doing on the opportunity he's getting more than how well the team's doing. That's more touchdowns, I think, for wide receivers. But yeah, he's still really inefficient. He's got like 0.5 yards per team pass attempt. Most rookie breakouts, you want to get over 1 or as close to 1 yard per team pass attempt as you can get. Still the only rookie at that level, I think. I think there are a couple, now I think about it. Yeah, it's Jefferson. Denzel Mims was the other guy I was concerned about with his efficiency. His efficiency is now raised. And as Nick from Big Dog's Gotta Eat YouTube channel, whatever, he was ranking wide receivers by ADOT, which is just cute as hell. But he was pointing out that Denzel Mims and Perryman actually both have these super high ADOTs. I do think Mims' ADOT's going to come down. It already has from his first few games. It's going to come down a little bit because that's not the area of the field we really want him to operate in. That's not necessarily a good thing for a player like Mims, in my opinion. You can mask inability with a fucking high ADOT, frankly. And we want to know if he's actually good. But anyway, his yards per team pass attempts definitely been one to jump, and so I'm feeling a lot more confident in my rookie evaluation of him, which I already was, but it's nice to see it finally bounce back. His dominators jumped up from like 5 to 14% in 2 games as well. Like, his numbers are starting to catch up with what we were seeing. Brandon Ayuk, still interesting in that I really didn't know what to make of his rookie profile, and he's still doing pretty well in the opportunity he's getting. T. Higgins is still the second best wide receiver performance of 2020, rookie wide receiver performance, as far as I can see. Who else changed that I thought was interesting? Oh yeah, Rager's starting to bounce up as well. He's someone that was showing he was starting to earn the opportunity but not do enough with it. And unlike Mooney, he's actually starting to bounce up in that category as well. He's improving as he plays, which is what you'd expect for a rookie. Again, that's why I'm a little concerned about Mooney. Although Mooney's cheap, he's always been cheap. He's always going to be cheap. No one really believes in him except maybe me and a few other people. And so we can rely on this volume here that he's getting 20% of the team's entire receiving game as a 4th round draft pick. That's pretty impressive for Mooney. So yeah, those are the things I was just looking at. Other than just looking at outright dominator, I'm thinking of writing my article primarily going through dominator instead of target share this week. And it just shows up a few things like how well Terry McLaurin's doing. By the way, this is not a good sign in a few respects. But Logan Thomas, who we forgot about after the first few weeks because he was, getting so many targets, and then we've realized he wasn't going to do anything on him. He's still 30% of that team's receiving game. It's just that it's such a piss poor receiving game, it doesn't matter that much. But yeah, it's actually still pretty good overall. He's like, what is he, tight end 8 or so in points, which is probably higher than you thought, higher than it is actually. Okay, he's tight end 17 and 21. You'd expect the points to catch up with that level of dominance in the offense. It's just, again, such a bad offense. It's hard to really believe in. But anyway, he's the only tight end that shows up pretty high in Dominator. Who else was there in here? Oh, yeah, Slayton interested me. I wanted to dig more into the Giants. Slayton was not someone that I was in on despite being low drafted because I'm not just a one-trick pony. But no, he's actually being pretty efficient, 0.9 yards per team pass attempt. He's got a 43% Dominator. And again, that's a terrible offense, which, going back to Logan, that we were saying before, we can adjust the production a little bit or expectation for the player despite low production based on the team output. But since he's doing pretty well in yards when he gets opportunity, I don't know, Slayton's been impressing me a little bit more. It's also interesting to me that like DJ Moore's got like a 43% Dominator. It's in the top 12, despite, this being a very disappointing season for most people for DJ Moore. He's actually started to show up, especially through the last few games. I was going to check that out as well because I've got the weekly stuff up here and in that link that I just gave you, obviously. Man of the people, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, well, that makes sense. DJ Moore's actually been showing up in points specifically over the last 3-4 weeks. Week 7 was good, and then over the last 3 weeks, he's been averaging, 17 points per game. So, yeah, that actually probably reflects how it feels to own DJ Moore lately. His game and control of that offense has been improving, which is interesting because I also wrote up Curtis Samuel last week as someone we may be overlooking because he was finally doing things that we expected him to do. And and that continued this week as well. So Samuel Moore starting to run away with that, despite the fact Robbie Anderson finally caught another freaking touchdown, which has been due since like week 2. He's been due more touchdowns, and he finally got another one. So, yay, I guess. Yay, regression. Regression gets a win finally in this season that is 2020. Yeah, and he's still rushing between 1 and 4 times a game as Curtis Samuel. And has as many, rushing touchdowns as Chase Claypool, who everyone always mentions it. But I'm not sure many people are really paying attention to the fact Curtis Samuel is basically having Chase Claypool season. But he's coming on stronger towards the end of the year than he did at the start. I mean, might be some dynasty value hidden in that as well. Or so I wrote up last week. Last year feels like last year, but it's actually last week. And Terry McLaurin, believe it or not, and this is probably more to do with the team than the player. He's been killing it this year. He's very consistent, 16 points per game, and that's pretty much what he gets every week as well. But, Tyreek Hill finally regressed in touchdowns this week, as we know. How many did he get in the end? 2, 3? Anyone know? He got a lot of touchdowns, which was nice for Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill owners. I was glad I wasn't facing him this week, put it that way. But Terry McLaurin, who's been a much bigger part of his offense, frankly, until last week, consistently this season, he's also underproducing touchdowns. Now, that's probably largely, again, to do with the terribleness of the Washington offense. Hey, Zach. I was just calling you out for your James Robinson takes. I don't care. But yeah, Terry McLaurin's actually, players average between 1 and 200 yards before they get a touchdown. Wide receiver, I think the average in 2020 is like 165-ish. We could look it up, but I'm not gonna. And he's pretty much doubling that. Like he's getting twice as many yards per touchdown as he should, which means that his touchdown rate should improve soonish, but it is Washington, so I'm not going to rely on that heavily, but he's the one that shows up for me the most in terms of his role of the offense, his opportunity, and the fact that he's due a few touchdowns. Due a few touchdowns is a little bit of an overstatement, but there you go. So yeah, I don't know. DFS take already? It's not really a dynasty one anyway. His cloak ball is really low in that metric, by the way, but I think it's because it's taking into account all touchdowns, and he's one of those players getting rushing touchdowns. Mike Evans is also getting too many touchdowns for his yardage total, but that's something we know is common to that player. There's a few players, very few, that I keep on those outer limits, and just, yeah, that's normal for them. And anyone playing with Aaron Rodgers and Mike Evans are kind of on that list if you expect more touchdowns than they should have for the yards. And Russell Wilson's wide receivers as well typically function that way as well. I'd say, it's not about the quarterback, but in those instances, it seems to be heavily about the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Was Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Someone told me he was injured last week. That would be great for me. I can't remember. Anyway, Alan Lazard came back in pretty good form last week. I know that's going to drive all the Lazard truthers crazy, I guess. But I don't think Marquez was even on the field. Oh, no, he's got stats. He was on the field in week 11. That sucks. I mean, he's still, an 18% target share. Yeah. I'm just checking on my split stats because I was just discussing Tyler Higbee. That's why I started out on tight ends today. And, split, I'm a big anti-fan of split takes, although I do love arguing about them because they're the worst things ever. And they're really easy to argue against. But, Scantling and Alan Lazard with another splits argument. And I don't think that's worked out for the splits believers either this year, but I want to check. Because Lazard, I don't know. He's been at least as good as Scantling when left alone with the team, but they do seem to split opportunity more than one dominates the other, which was my original take on that entire wide receiver 2 in Green Bay problem, situation, argument. I don't know what to call these things. It's really weird how Jimmy Graham's still good, and also Gronkowski, huh? It's almost like age is overrated or something weird. Anyway, that's enough with tight ends. No one cares. Nor should they. Someone that stood out for me in opportunity share in terms of running back. If you like regression narratives, which I don't, I think these things should mostly be adjusted by team situations a little bit. David Montgomery is an exceptionally high opportunity share, or running back dominance, if we want to put it in a more aggressive term. And he does not match that. Like everyone else with over 60%, well, they're the running backs you think they are. They're the ones you want. And Frank Gore. But you know what's going on there. And then you've got this random David Montgomery sitting in there. I think he's going to Frank Gore it. I think he's going to continue to be a huge part of that running back game and still produce, 12 points per game? Yay. David Montgomery, man. Poor lad. So efficient, right? I don't know what I was talking about at the time. He was injured. Okay, cool. So I have to get out of jail free card. That's pretty cool. Well, that's not obviously cool. That's not cool for all the teams I bought him on. And it's definitely not cool for the player. But it's good to know. I appreciate you telling me. No. How is everyone? Any questions, Zach? Want to argue with me about James Robinson a little bit more? Because I think I think one more week has not disproven that he's great. Oh wow, only 26 points last week. Man, undrafted free agents just suck, don't they? And yeah, Zach, that's what I'm going to tell people you said. I hope they listen to the podcast because they're not going to get the truth from me. Yeah, I think I'm going through Dominator for my article this week. I want to drop the pretense that the target share article is really about target share. I mean, I like target share still, but it's not what I want to go through right now. I re-ranked, actually redid my dynasty ranks if anyone's interested. And one of the problems as I had is I wanted to jack Will Fuller up so high, and I just couldn't. I honestly couldn't, even when I was trying to go drastic. I think I'm drastically against consensus. But, oh, wrong one. But I still couldn't get him in the. I think I got him in there as wide receiver 24. Oh, 25. Well, I had to put Judy ahead of him. Positional value and all. Or youth value, I guess. And that just seems so terrible. But the guys above him, it's like Jerry Judy is the one I was dithering on. Allen Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Cortland Sutton, Stephon Diggs. I mean, that's too low, really. But then it's Adam Thielen, who I will never rank above or below Stephon Diggs. It's just not going to happen. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Tyreek Hill, Amari Cooper. Like, I'm not seeing many I would fade. So he's just stuck down here at wide receiver 25, and so's Rager at 26, and I kind of hate it. Like, these are the wide receivers I want to buy, to be honest with you, down here outside the top 24. My top three wide receivers are still Adams, Thomas, and DeAndre Hopkins, which is very on brand. The youngest guy is AJ Brown. He comes in at 4th. I've managed to push Metcalf to 5, which should make people plenty mad. I could go lower, but I think that'll make people mad enough. Calvin Ridley. I got Justin Jefferson in the top 12 as well. I hate having to drop Julio Jones, wide receiver 8. But I did manage to get Juju Smith-Schuster back into the top 12, and I'm very proud and pleased with myself for doing that. I demand rounds of applause, frankly. There's an argument that I shouldn't have Calvin Ridley so high, I guess. Yeah, I can move him down. Chris Godwin as well. Kind of the same take. I'm re-ranking players as I look. This happens every time. I don't know how people have such solid ranks. It changes every time I look at it. Murray Cooper or Tyreek Hill, wide receiver 12. You all think Hill, right? Anyway. I'm almost tempted to start breaking into quarterback stats. I want to know more about Justin Herbert because everyone can't stop saying good things and the team can't stop losing, despite the fact that Keenan Allen is great and Hunter Henry is top 5. So I'm kind of wondering what's going on there. I'm checking out this waiver wire article on DLF. I haven't opened up a waiver wire of mine before it's already ran since like week 7, but why not? Myles Gaskin, okay. I think he's rostered. Hey, who is this? Addison. Hey, Addison's article. He's got Donald Mooney on it. If he's available in your league, you're not challenging yourself, though. Same with Gaskin. Ito Smith is an interesting ad. I don't think it's going to happen, but good eye. Hey, he's got Andy Isabella on here. Something I was noticing about players I've forgotten about, even though I was high on, frankly. KJ Hamler and also Andy Isabella. I mean, this might not have slipped your notice, but it slipped mine. They've both increasingly been part of that offense. Well, last week sucked for Hamler, but it sucked for everyone. But before that, he had 10, 10, and 6 targets. That's really high. Did anyone else know he'd had 26 targets through 3 games before last week? Like, that's good. Like, I was high on him. I just hadn't noticed. And who's the other one? Isabella's because Fitzgerald's down, but it hasn't helped Kirk Cousins out much. But he did finally get 6 targets last week. Some nice, easy ads. So I'm glad Addison's pointing them out. I think a Bleasy Johnson or whatever is just a mirage, though. Oh, anyway, I don't know. I keep hearing his name, but I don't know about that. DJ Moore got injured. I missed everything. I was at work Sunday, by the way. Don't judge me too hard. I know. I just don't think it's going to happen for Ian Thomas this year, Edison. Willie Snead is a perma ad in my dynasty leagues, to be honest. Mohamed Sanu, did he get re-signed to Detroit? Cool. I didn't know Addison was writing that article this year. Pretty cool. Oh, I forgot to show you guys. I was trying to create That was just part of my Tyler Higbee conversation. No. An opportunity. I remember last week, I actually implemented it at this week, even though we were working on it last Monday. Opportunity over what they are getting on average on this season so far to essentially try and track who's gaining. And obviously Gorman last week at running back. Eckler because he just came back from injury. Okay, that makes sense. Tyreek Hill because he had that 3 touchdown game. That's the only problem with it. If you have a big blow up game, it's influencing it too much. I want a more even look at what they've been doing the last 3 weeks. You know. Anyway, what stuck out to me on this? There was a player who's been gradually losing. Where's my cursor? I think it was Devontae Adams. Now I think about it. Yeah. Adams has kind of been lagging an opportunity, and that's partly, I guess, I would have thought MVS or Alan Lazard coming back, but the thing is it's not. It's actually the tight ends have been picking up more work. Yeah, like over the last 3 weeks, his opportunity, Devontae Adams in Green Bay, has dropped from like 23 expected points per game, and then he outperforms that by 7 or 8 points, to 18, and then to 13 last week. It's kind of a little weird, isn't it? Especially since it hasn't been going. Again, it hasn't been going to Everett or Scantling when he had his big game. Instead, it's going to Tyler Irvin and Jace Sternberger. It's just weird. You know what I mean? It's probably just aberrant, but it's not a great sign heading towards the playoffs at a startlingly accelerated rate. I mean, it's not a big concern for Adams. It's more a big concern for everyone else on the team. If the opportunity is bleeding off, but it's going to these ancillary players, you're never going to start. Struck me as interesting. Yeah, Will Fuller is like 1, 2, 3, 4th in the league this year in his yards per team pass attempt, and his ADOT is not that elevated. I mean, it's under Tyreek Hill's, under DK Metcalf, who he's beating in that metric, on that stat. It's about the same as Justin Jefferson, who he's now beating in it. Like, Will Fuller's always good when he's on the field, and he's been on the field a lot compared to usual this season. Denzel Mims is actually really impressed over the last few games. I'm not sure it's felt that way. I know everyone's going to be talking about him, but might be underrated. He's played very limited games to suddenly jump up so high, since I'm using complete team pass attempts. And he's only been playing 4 or 5 games. He hasn't been below 1.3 yards per team pass attempt over the last 3 weeks. And he's only getting like 10 fantasy points a game, and that's partly the team. But I really expect that to come back. His dominator's gonna rise. Right now, it's what? 14% of the team's receiving. That's gonna come up as this continues. And no, Mims might be a really good play later in the season if this continues. Or buy if anyone's buying into 10 points a game not being good in Dynasty. Hey, we got someone other than Zach who went quiet all of a sudden. Hey, Connor, how you doing? Hey, man, I was looking at NFL passing touchdowns per game. Cool. This whole season, week 9 passing touchdowns kind of peaked at 3.9 touchdowns per game, when in week 10, it dipped all the way to 2.6. Okay. You mean the average of week 1 to 9 versus week 10? Yeah, something to note is receiving production does tend to fall. It does tend to lessen somewhat as a league average as well, especially as we get to the colder and latter half of the year. I mean, some of that is a myth, but overall, you can expect the peaks of production across teams to fade. You're still going to get good wide receivers doing good things, but the overall output at receiving is going to drop. After a deep dive, this is a headache. I agree. It depends what you're deep diving into, but honestly, all deep dives are a headache. I'm assuming you're going to tell me what I'm doing wrong at opportunity share, since we're getting slightly different numbers. I think it might be Chris Thompson, by the way. Chris Thompson is listed on Jacksonville, obviously. But if I remember right, he and someone else on that team switched teams. And so when I'm summing running back attempts or attempts for running back and targets for running back, I think I'm getting targets or attempts they were actually getting on different teams. I think that might be it. Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to slip that much. This is just, remember, you've got Denver in that calculation, plus a few damn games this week. It's not going to drastically, one touchdown a game dip. But yeah, you can expect the average for the whole NFL and receiving output to be less in the last 5 weeks than in the first 10 or so. I think that makes sense based on what I've only looked at it briefly, though. It's off by only a fraction. Okay. Well, I think sometimes where I'm calculating, how do I calculate opportunity share? I think I go through the yearly stats to do that. So I'm not getting team change incorporated in. And I think that's probably going to mess with mine a lot. I don't know if you're using the weekly data, which always lists the team for that week, which will probably be more accurate. I'm thinking that might be what it is. He just got suspended for oh, wow. Okay, well, now he can't get injured. I guess that's a positive. What did he get suspended for? He announced via Instagram. Man, I live in a 2020 world, right? Modern problems. Violating the NFL's performance-enhancing substances policy. Okay. Well, whatever it was keeping his hamstrings together, I guess. I stand by. He's a great player when he's on the field. Uh-oh. Indianapolis can't afford to lose good players. Someone told me that the Steelers game could be pushed as far as or was it pushed as far as Thursday? This week's going to be even worse than last week for projections, isn't it? I can feel it. Edelman's on the COVID list. Oh, that sucks. Okay. The Packers just don't want good wide receivers, man. They just signed Tavon Austin. I mean, What? I mean, well, okay. DJ Moore's X-ways are negative. That's positive. He could even return by week 13, apparently. Josh Jacobs might bounce back as well. Okay, when asked if Mitch Trubisky would start in week 13 against the Lions, Bears coach Matt Nagy responded, I don't see why not. Now, that's a very different answer depending on what inflection you put on it, right? Like, I don't see why not. It's really how I read it. Where are you, Spaceman? That's not what my thought was. I think you're getting the biggest differences in teams that have players changing teams. Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting. So, yeah, I'm more wrong. Just admit it. PEDs, maybe. Hard to blame him, man. He's a phenomenal player and he's on the field and he can't get on the field. You want to show that you're a phenomenal player. I mean, must be frustrating. Also count fullbacks as running backs, so that can mess things up. Yeah, I just use the positions listed by RotoViz, so however they're listed. If they're, and I think they only list running backs, they don't list fullbacks. Hate it. No, man, I got to look at something. I'm all done collecting stats. I used to collect stats while streaming, but it was so much of a burden. I mean, you can already see my video quality isn't the best in the world. And that's largely because of my internet connection. And putting a strain on my CPU to do my stat collection made it even worse. So these days, I tend to just chat about what it turned up. How does Adam Gase still have a job? Seriously. I mean, I don't want people to lose jobs, but the man literally does not need any more money. It's not like I hurt him. And he's bad. He's very bad at his job. I mean, that seems like a cause for not having a job anymore. Ronald Jones needs to have 20 touches. Like, I literally just blank out that coaches saying what kind of volume players should get. Well, I mean, who do they think's in charge of that? I mean, you could have been doing it. Who was it who was talking about how Darren Waller's just going to disappear? He's done now, mainly because of draft capital. God, people just don't want to learn. Tonight, Miles Sanders. It's well within his range of outcomes if you want a nice cagey answer, but I can tell you what he's projected for as well. He's projected for 15, and no one's projecting him for more than that, really. The lowest side on him is going to be, looks like, who's site 2? Site 2 is Fantasy Pros. You don't have to worry about that one as much. I'm site 3, and I'm the highest on him. 4 for 4 is the other one I think I have in here right now. And we're all pretty consistent. Our certainty level is at 98% in that there's a very similar projection from all 3 sites. Yeah, he could get 20 man, but he's going to need a touchdown because we tend not to project touchdowns too heavily. So he's going to need to get an extra touchdown to what we think, which is possible. The Seahawks tend to push teams by scoring a shit ton of points sometimes. So it could happen, yeah. He's another player who actually, He's due maybe a half a touchdown, so it's not a great regression narrative, but there you go. Yeah, I wouldn't lose hope. That's what I'd say. Yeah. The game that was suspended and is getting moved, it's still all going to count for last week. I imagine that's the way. I don't know what site you're playing on or how your commissioner wants to set it up or anything like that, but that's what I assume in most leagues, that the games that are being moved are going to be back applied to this week. So, like in the Scott Fish Bowl, I have players playing in that Baltimore Ravens game, but it's going to count for this week, not next week. Otherwise, you could it's got to be for this week. You need 16 points. I think I need like 3. And I need to outscore. Who is it I need to outscore? I'll show you. I ain't scared. You can see my teams. I don't care. No, where am I? I'm actually having another struggling week because Kyler Murray scored 5 freaking fantasy points. And Murray and Mahomes are basically the core of my team. So I'm actually down a little bit when I should already be winning, I think. I'm down. Yeah, I'm down 1 point, basically. 1.3 points. And I've got Tyler Lockett, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Eric Ebron left to play, all playing in that suspended game, that game that's been moved. I think, right? That's not playing tonight. Yeah, that's playing Tuesday at the moment. So I need them to get at least 1-2 points, and I need them to outscore Travis Fulgham for the rest of it. So I need 1 point plus Travis Fulgham. I think I'm going to get there. I think I'll get my next win, but I know it kind of sucks when your quarterbacks don't fire and Scott Fishbowl. I would have done better starting Phillip Rivers, if that tells you anything about my experience this week. Fingers crossed, man. I'm rooting for you. I love it when Miles Sanders crushes. You need 16 points from Miles Sanders. Okay, it's a popular concern here. Yeah, I think you can do it. I think you guys got a better than average chance of winning. I'm always going to bet on Miles Sanders, man. How are you doing in your leagues this year? I was doing all right, and I've really just hyper focused on the Scott Fish Bowl lately. But and I'm doing well in that. I'm not going to win it, obviously. It's a Scott Fish Bowl, but outside of that, kind of stinking it up. I think there were a couple of leagues I was pushing in, and then it became clear I wasn't going to win it, so I started selling or trying to sell off players. See, I'm 8-3, 6-5. Nickelodeon doesn't count as a best ball league. 3-8, but I've been tanking that team since the start of the season. I literally just traded. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I traded Chris Carson, and the week after that, I traded Cam Akers for Chris Godwin, basically. So yeah, that's expected. 6-5. This 4-7 is the one that upsets me. I'm basically 6-5 or 8-3. But this is a salary cap league run by Job Bosch, and I can't figure out what's going wrong. I kind of love my team low key, and my quarterbacks have kind of been stinking, but Goff's a solid floor. But despite having good players and the right players, like I bought Will Fuller for 1 year this year, which is the year to buy him, even though he's suspended now. Keenan Allen, who's been killing it this year. Corey Davis for this year, who's been killing it. Like I got Justin Jefferson on his rookie contract. Mims, like solid. My running backs look worse than they did now, but I had Giovanni Bernard, who's been a great spot starter. Malcolm Brown, who's a great spot starter to start the year. Chase Edmonds, who's been a solid replacement the second half. I just have no huge running back points. But despite that, my tight ends are doing really well as well. I don't know how points add up in this league. Like, I think there's a scoring setting I'm overlooking, and I don't focus on it enough to see it because I kind of like this team, but I'm always bad, and I'm like 4-7 this year in that league. But yeah, outside of that, pretty good, actually. I'm in the playoffs in most. And like I say, the one I've really focused on this year is the Scott Fishbowl. I just want to get to the playoffs, okay? I just want to not be an also ran this year. So I tried pretty hard on that draft sheet I built. And yeah, it's going all right. I'm like 8-3, I think. And I hope I should go to 9-3 this week. And that should put me pretty close to getting in the playoffs. And it's about time, frankly. So, yeah, I'm measuring my season. I tend to measure my season by the league I'm focusing. Like, which one am I really pushing in? And that it was that one this year. So, how about yourself? Killing it? I hope so. It's been a while since I dominated a league. I play in too many good leagues. I got to go find me a shit league. I missed 10-2 seasons or whatever. This is the year of the resurgent tight end. Anyone else notice that? You got Jordan Reed, Rob Gronkowski, and Jimmy Graham. Jesus. Oh, that's nice to know. Yeah, but it's not the same. I don't. If I'm in the playoffs, and the next stage is to be really in the playoffs, and also, like, what's that ranking? I was 40th last time I looked. I think my highest ranking has been 35th so far. So now the goal is to be higher than 35th. Yeah, I'm ranked 40th right now. Like, now, I want to get back up here. And I'm going to need my players to play this week for that. I mean, I'm never going to get up here. Like, okay, I'm not going to win it. But I want to be within the margin of, luck. And right now it's not. These teams all just beat me, hands down. But if I can get up here, then I feel like I'm within the margin of, luck. Essentially like 20 winners to the Scott Fishbowl in my mind. Like the top 20 teams kind of all beat everyone else, no matter what team your team looked like. I invested in the Steelers offense, which is a good idea. That or the Seahawks is in the playoffs and all of them. Nice. Glad to hear it. I keep thinking about the Seahawks. Someone asked me to re-up my Chase Claypool takes in a video, and I can't figure it out. I can't figure out which way I want to yes or no him. Right? You don't just want to say, yeah, whatever. I want to be in or I want to be out on that kind of a season, and I can't decide which way I want to go on Claypool. It's kind of a hard read. I'm leaning out. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is the heart of that offense. I think both of the other players suffer a lot more if he's not there than the other way around. So I'm fully in on Juju Smith-Schuster. But I don't know if that pushes me out on Chase Claypool yet. Or Deontay. Both are having great seasons. You're 3 points off the Wildcat? Wow, nice, man. Do you mean you need 3 points this week to get your average up? Or like you need to win another game to get those 3 points? I'm not sure how it works. I should probably check that out. Yeah, that's why I ended up with Juju everywhere. Now, he hasn't lived up to all my expectations, but he's been good. And the way he's playing is good. I can't emphasize that enough. Like, he's giving that team a lot of value for what they give him. That'd be nice. You should come kick me out of the playoffs. It would be so much fun if that could be the tilt. Like, I want to go out on a big tilt, not just someone beats me, because that's going to happen, obviously. But I'd like to go out in some mega tilt, like Corey Davis beats me or something. That or a friend kicking my ass in the playoffs would be, I think those would be the sweetest tilts. Playoff starts week 13. So, yeah, next week. Wow. Set a lineup to be safe. Week 13 score equals season average plus season 13. Interesting. You can see if you made it by the playoffs tab, you'll not set a Thursday. You're not set on Thursday like in season. You must submit one. Okay. I think I know what that means. Can you see who you're playing already? It's not showing me in the playoffs, which isn't upsetting at all. Oh, I got to figure out what conference I'm in. Does it tell you? I don't know what conference I'm in. Is that bad? I'm not in conference 1. Not in conference 2. Or 3. 4. No. Mom, what conference am I in already? On 8. Not in 9. Wow. I'm in a low rank conference, huh? Not in conference 10. No. Oh, there I am. I'm in conference 12. Nice. I've got a bye week next week. I'll take it. Thank you. Low key, there's a lot of Thundercats teams, my division, in the hunt for the playoffs. Like top 40, I think we've got 3 or 4 teams. It was a rough division, man. Everyone in there did a really good job. Not that I'm using their success to boost my own. No, I'm kind of going to do that. But no, seriously. But independently, they did really well. Well, really, I'm the winner because the players I drafted with did a much better job. Yeah, I'm in the 12th conference, apparently. Does anyone notice that Deadpool 1 and 2 is playing on Hulu? I found that out last night. and watched him, obviously. Yeah, Ravens Steelers games definitely moved to Wednesday at least. I don't know when to do projections for next week. That's what I'm worried about. Like, I need that data to project those teams for next week, but I can't wait until Thursday to do my first run of projections. That's not going to fly, you know? I do have Tyler Lockett playing tonight. Hopefully he can win it for me, and then I can just enjoy the ride on Wednesday. And he's got Travis Fulgham playing tonight. So, yeah, I'll know pretty well where I am after tonight, at least. Who am I playing? Dynasty Dad. Oh, nice. I'm going to go teasing. Obviously. My classes finished this week, so I'm trying to clean those up. And I also have to get at least my first draft of that chapter for Jordan McNamara's book done this week as well. And that's a mess, man. That's a mess. I've looked at other, not to talk to you about inside baseball, but trying to push my my streaming schedule into some kind of rhythm, like do a waiver wire show, I'm just too dynasty focused, and there are too many of them already for me to really feel like I can pile on. I just like reading articles, watching videos, or chatting with anyone who wants to talk about football, man. Low key. Sorry, I can see people coming in and out of the chat, coming in going, wow, this guy's doing nothing, and then leaving. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's the theme around here. Got to start sick question about tonight. You're probably, nah. Most decisions are made at this point, right? I can say I broke even in DFS, and I did not have Derrick Henry, so I'm proud of that. And I don't play Monday DFS either. So. Spaceman, you still in here? No? Yes. I'm trying to figure out what more I can do with yards per team pass attempt, because it's a really good predictor of points next week and also next season. It beats points per game. Very few things do that. Dominator's good and stuff, and I'm not trying to create a metric, but I want to adjust it by role. I want to adjust it by ADOT, essentially, and I can't think of a way. I could just make a model out of it, but I hate doing that. There's so many models swinging around my sheets, like big dick models, small dick models, over scrim yards per team play. Yeah, that's trying to calculate the same thing. It's not adjusting for the role as much. And I know you have, but Cortland Sutton's got an 8 out of 17, so his 1.03 average yards per team pass attempts is not as good as Jarvis Landry's. It's just not. He's not being because he's been given a lot more. You've been given a clear 10 yards on top per target, pretty much. Yeah, that's what I'm. A yard, same thing. But I don't want to just percentage it or make a model predicting points per game or something. Like I say, I don't. I like the simplicity of yards per team pass attempt, and I'm trying to think of a way of keeping that. Like yards per team yards per ADOT, or I don't know. Yards per team pass attempt adjusted for ADOT. You can just do a simple minus or average of that ADOT within 10% minus what they're actually getting, kind of a thing. But that's going to be a really weird number. Adjusted yards per team attempt. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do essentially. There's got to be a better way than just binning and averaging ADOT, though. Something simple I'm not thinking of, Yards per team air yard, maybe? Instead of using attempts and yards, you just use air yards and attempts. Well, still using attempts. I've switched from using passing attempts to using all attempts so that running backs and wide receivers are a little more comparable. Yeah, would that do it? Yards per team air yards? No, because I don't know that would do it because they're still getting the boost, right? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out, Connor. I don't want to. We adjust everything for everything at this point, and it's very boring. So I'm trying to find out a way of calculating what I want without it being an adjustment. Instead, it just being a different stat. Factor in racer? I don't know. Oh, racer per air yards, I guess, would be a similar logic, but that would be a really weird fucking number. Because yards per team attempt is already like this team volume adjusted yard production, basically, isn't it? I don't know. I don't want to make shit any more complicated. I mean, look at all these columns we got here, dude. I don't want to add another one just for the sake of it. Or another acronym people have to learn. Expected points per game, just kind of doing the heavy work on volume. Yards per team pass attempt I like as an efficient volume adjusted efficiency metric, which I know fantasy points over expected is, but it's not a good predictor because it's pure efficiency. So I like looking at opportunity and expected points per game, and then looking at yards per team pass attempt. I mean, but I still look at dominator and opportunity score for an idea of the role, the size of their role on the offense. It would be like adjusting those for team volume, right? That's why I like yards per team attempt. I mean, that's what I did when last podcast. I just wanted a simple way to look at rookie seasons, and so what I did was where is it? I got so many downloaded spreadsheets. There it is. Oh wait, that's the final result. That won't help. This is the one I had open and it kept crashing. So bear with me here. But all I did is I took wide receivers from 2009, 2018, and I asked it to use. What did I use? Where's my model? Yeah, I asked it to use yards per team attempt, season long number, and target share to predict points per game the next season. And that's what I used for that podcast, just to kind of assess rookie seasons. So you've got like the top 10 rookie seasons overall being Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, and all the results are good at least. I didn't have an out of sample to really test, but I mean, it did a fairly good job. And we can test how well it did. Actually, I forgot to do that. I think the R squared was something like 45% or whatever. Yeah, it's 40%, but this isn't the right sample because you got to take out players that were injured. So what was the testing? Adjusted R was 44%. I mean, and that's fine just for a quick nasty model. By itself, yards per team pass attempt was doing 40% of the work. So, I didn't get much more signal out of it. But what I want is a stat that I can insert here that does better than 40% in this particular sample. Instead of yards per team attempt, something that does the same very simple job, but beats 40% to predict points per game next year. Yeah, I know, but it's pure efficiency. It's an efficiency metric. It tells you how efficient they were at producing yards per air yards, whereas air yards themselves are a volume metric. Yards per team pass attempt, weirdly, functions as this volume and efficiency thing because it's adjusting their volume by the team's overall volume, which creates an efficiency-looking number, but it's actually it's a team-adjusted yards, essentially. Yards per attempt, whatever. You could just per attempt, yeah. And that's where I'm at. I guess I'll just bin ADOT, but I never have great results when I bin. Especially with ADOT. How do you bin ADOT? I always do it within 10%. But then you've got players with weird ADOTs of 4, whose ADOTs only really compare to running backs. And they get weird results, It works for DeAndre Swift real well, I'm sure. That would solve the Juju problem. Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can see it. I can see what and I can describe it. And I'm telling people it. But it would be great if there was a number I could just, say that's it on. Because you can see it in, speaking of Juju, where am I? So you've got, all right, 3 wide receivers operating in this order. Deontay Johnson's got more yards per team pass attempt than Claypool, then Juju Smith-Schuster, which seems like he's doing worse. But then you look at their ADOTs and realize that he's doing about as well with an ADOT of 6. That's what I'm trying to say. It's very clear he's doing a lot more with the opportunity he's getting and the same expected points. So he's expected to score as many points based on the volume. So I guess expected points is kind of doing some of this lifting. Yeah, expected points is trying to do the same thing, but that's the thing. Expected points is a really complicated. Like I could dedicate the time creating an expected points model, but feeding a model with that much data in Excel, as you know, is my processors can't handle it or do it well. I mean, I could get it done, but we've got it. I've got one from Rotoviz. I don't need to do that, but I'm looking for a number that competes with it without like a simple number. Like that's why. Well, what we were just looking at. I've got expected points in here, probably somewhere. Well, I've got receiving expected points. That'll have to do. And yeah, receiving expected points beats yards per team pass attempt, but it beats it by 3%. Receiving yards per team pass, receiving specific. Oh, here you go. You'll know what the acronyms mean. This one, receiving expected points, predicts points per game the next season, 43% R squared. Yards per team attempt gets 40%. So expected points is doing a better job. Here's the thing. Yards per team pass attempt is this really beautiful, simple number. Whereas expected points, as you know, I mean, it takes an entire machine to run that fucker. And it's getting 43%. And, you know, someone sitting at home can't easily figure it out. And that expected points model is sophisticated enough that you don't just do it on a wet Wednesday, you know? Whereas yards per team attempt, you need team attempts, you need yards. You got it. Like, I just love that. So I'm trying to, you know, get a little bit more competitive with expected points more simply. And the simple way that I can see of doing that is adjusting for raw, adjusting for ADOT or AON in some fashion. And yeah, you're right. Binning ADOT is the only thing I can think of. So I was just kind of asking if you had any other ideas to try it with, because I really have terrible. I find, yeah, yeah. That's why you mentioned Juju. Yeah, I have terrible results when I bin ADOT. I don't know why. It's probably just my methodology sucks. But I just take their ADOT and plus or minus 10% either way, and everyone that fits into that category is the bin, right? I don't know. And it's still, I don't know. It kind of loses some of the beauty of a division. There you go. It's like a per game number. It's as hard to complicate it. It's as hard and complicated to calculate as points per game. Like anyone can do it. It's just sitting right there. Like here it is. You can make this number on any spreadsheet, and you get like only a 3% edge to predict how well they're gonna do in n+1 or whatever. To where is it? This number, expected points, which you know we could, but you know I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it would take me a while. It would be difficult to do, and it would be a challenge, and then I would have it. That would be attempts, wouldn't it? Maybe. I mean, it's a bit of a mindfuck just to try and create a better number just because it's simple, but I also think people lose interest in terms of getting them to be interested or understand how important it is if you start explaining what an expected points per game formula is, for example. I think that's why it hasn't just become the stat everyone uses. They can't make it. You can't write. I barely understand what it is because I'm an idiot, to be fair. But I don't know. Just a thought. I'm going to put it in every nerd's head I find and see if someone can spit out something, because mine's not good enough to figure it out. With less opportunities? Yeah, I guess that would make sense. That's why I'm calculating it the way I am. I'm going like this one's calculated. Their average yards per team pass attempt is calculated in the weeks that they played. So I'm going to the weekly tab, selecting their weeks and what yards per team pass attempt did they have in the weeks they played. So I'm only using the pass attempts in the weeks they played, if that makes sense, which I think is a slight improvement and probably why I'm getting pretty good results compared to expected points, instead of just because, like you say, less opportunities. If you only play 4 games, like Mims right now, and you have good yards per team pass attempt, that means you've outproduced fucking everyone extraordinarily well to catch up and then overtake, because you're using all those pass attempts that were there when you weren't. So less opportunities is probably, that's where it's the same problem, that's for sure. But I've adjusted that by going and doing the average of the weeks in pass attempts and yards when they were there. Like I'm calculating that every week and then doing the average of that number. So it's only in the weeks that they've played and only the pass attempts in the games they were there for count, kind of a thing. Yeah, I wish it was just an efficiency stat, but efficiency stats, for a start, it's not calculating their efficiency. It's calculating it's almost the team's efficiency using player X. But it's like a hybrid. It's volume. It's volume and efficiency rubbed together to make a fire, I mean, that sounds way too complicated for such a simple thing, but take Swift for a second. Would you stop mentioning running backs? I don't like them. Take Swift, please. Well, his is actually pretty low for a running back, right? Running backs, since they get rushing yards, tend to operate at a higher level. Like Davin Cook is 2.43, which is a wide receiver's dream, and Swift is down here at 1.12. Even if I just can't, I've also got it in here. That's what the blue column is here. I calculate it per game. Like you were saying, it's a way of getting to the same thing without having weekly data, but you have to wait until they've played more games for it to really kick in. And so early in the season, I wasn't liking it. But I'm calculating team attempts per game and player yards per game. So it's a way I can use seasonal stats to get to the same fix. I don't know why you keep mentioning Swift, though. He doesn't. I'm missing something here. I mean, he's fine in it. He's not exceptional for a running back, though, unless you want to look at just receiving. Maybe he shows up there, but the same volume. Okay, I see. I think I see what you're saying. Well, Nick Chubb, like if I limit per opportunities in terms of expected points, that's per game though. Okay, you're probably just doing touches, right? Hang on. Uh, 109 opportunities for Swift, so I mean, if you don't put a floor in there and just say 100, 109, Swift comes up sixth. It's not really comparable, though. I mean, McCaffrey had a lot less opportunities this year, and obviously he's the best player in the world ever, but he's got like 1.8 yards per team pass attempt, and Swift is at 1.2, which to me seems like the difference between an elite tier and yeah, fine. Oh, he's over 1. That's cool. But Sony Michel is closer to Swift than Swift is to Eckler or Christian McCaffrey. But again, that in part because those guys are so much bigger part of the receiving game, and Chris Carson's had so much more of the rushing work. I know it's difficult at running back. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it that way. If you're looking per game, it might be slightly different. I hate my lazy fingers. If you're using the per game hack, then it looks slightly different. Still, no, that's the thing about the per game hack. It looks slightly different, but it's basically the same. And yeah, he's right next to Sony Michel, Salvon Ahmed, and a tier below players like Eckler and McCaffrey. And also randomly Raheem Mostert. Like, please tell me I don't have to worry about him. Yeah, I know. I think we're might be per game, yeah. Because I've just got straight opportunities here. I'll look at it another time. I mean, it's not that he's doing bad. It's just that Eckler would be the standout for me in that stat between James Robinson. But he's got more opportunities, so he wasn't on the list. Forget I said that. Forget I said that one. I do like my per game hack because that's gonna be easier than building a weekly database for every season, and then I can compare past seasons to this season. But I think this is a quote unquote best way of calculating, which is doing the average of their yards per team attempt weekly. That's a purest number, I guess. Anyway. All right, I'm probably getting out of here unless anyone has any questions, wants to talk about anything. Start sits on a Monday. Who else do I have to play? Okay, I'm meant to be scoring 41 points over the next 2 days. What do you want to bet I don't? You too, man. Thanks everyone for checking it out, and Spaceman for trying to straighten me out on some stats that I have funny ideas on. I appreciate it because I have some funny ideas. Appreciate it, guys. I'll check you out again next time I stream. It's every Monday at least. Hat tip, my man. And sometimes I manage to fit in a Tuesday, maybe in a Thursday stream this week. You never know. But anyway, appreciate it. Talk to you later. And stay safe, have fun, enjoy the game tonight.